urgently needs to change and find alternative ways for cleaner powering and heating. Change has to happen, and fast. At Vattenfall, we believe the solution is energy that is free from fossil fuels. We need to change how we live, how we work, how we produce, how we build, how we travel. At Vattenfall, we're determined to power and lead this change. We exist to help all our customers live their lives in ever climate-smarter ways and enjoy fossil fuel-free lives within one generation. As one of Europe's leading energy companies, our ambition is to become fossil-free ourselves. But that's not enough. We also actively seek new partnerships inside and outside the energy industry, searching for new ways to achieve fossil freedom. For instance, we collaborate with the steel industry to develop a method for producing fossil-free steel that emits water instead of carbon dioxide. We help our customers to adopt smart technologies to create their own electricity or heat in an easy and affordable way. We are building a network of charging stations in Northern Europe, together with our partners, to accelerate the transition to electric cars. Our journey to fossil freedom is actively underway.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining, for those who joined early. My name is Benoit Lavinal. I'm the head of procurement for Vattenfall for all renewable activities. And je suis aussi français, en charge des achats pour Vattenfall pour toutes les activités renouvelables de l'entreprise. So today we'll say a few words about fossil free within one generation, our company vision, and what it means for us in procurement. How do we develop a sustainable supply chain? So fossil free within one generation is our company motto. It means that our aim is to ensure that all our customers, our potential suppliers and partners are able to live a fossil free life within one generation. And one generation means that when our children will be our age, they should be able to do so. And we really focus a lot on the word of sustainable and what sustainable means to us. And the word sustainable has many interesting meanings for us and different facets. It means that we need to make profits. The supply chain needs to make profit. Everyone needs to have a sustainable way of living. It also means that we need to look how we building projects, how we acquiring and using resources, and how do we also engage with the local supply chain. So we felt it was a very relevant topic for today in Dunkirk to discuss about how do we intend to work with the local supply chain. So if I say a few words about Vattenfall, we're one of the largest energy producers in Europe, #1 in Scandinavia. We have more than 1 gigawatt of wind projects in operation and around 6 gigawatts in development. We're active in 5 main countries: Germany, Netherlands, the UK, Sweden and Denmark. And we are certainly looking forward to play a part in France as well. We're also active in the area of large-scale solar activities and also batteries to help us store either locally or in the grid the electricity we're producing. So as you can see on the map, we have quite a large spread of projects across Europe. Our ambition is large, so we are a Northern European focused utility. We're looking to double our install fleet in the next 5 years, which entails us really taking part in a lot of activities across those main countries and looking to introduce ourselves into new countries, such as France. And of course, we've been one of the leader, if not the leader, in actually driving the cost of offshore wind down in the last few years, to really actually reaching our target of reaching subsidy-free offshore wind earlier than we'd planned with the Holland Seekers 1 and 2 bids that we put forward and won last year. So overall, we have a big appetite for growth. We're looking to more than 8 gigawatt of installed capacity for renewable by 2025 in the areas of onshore wind, offshore wind, solar and batteries. So this is our focus. Procurement at Vattenfall. So how do we work in procurement in the organization, and how do we then work with the supply chain? One of the main focus that we have going forward is what we call leverage the supply chain. So leveraging the supply chain means that we want to be a customer of choice. So we want to be a company and want to be a function that is approachable, that the suppliers want and understand. It's about being transparent and fair with our suppliers, so that they understand how we work. We want to develop a sustainable supply chain, which I'll say a few more words in the next few slides about what it means in practice, in concrete terms. And then finally, we want to really help to be the gateway of innovation towards our supply chain. A lot of the spend is with our suppliers, and they have the best ideas probably in terms of how to help us reduce the cost of our energy and to make it more sustainable. So really it's about being the gateway as procurement towards our suppliers. So we've decided to take the lead on sustainability. Of course, sustainability is a term that is used in many, even most companies those days. Our CEO, Magnus Hall, has a very strong view on this, and we're really leading the way in terms of, as we saw in introducing video, about fossil-free steel production. We're doing partnership with mining companies, with concrete companies, and really to really develop not only for ourselves the production of energy, but also with our partners that are very heavily energy consuming. So we want to commit to become climate neutral. That's probably a given. We want to commit to the protection of nature and biodiversity, and I'll say another word about that later on, which goes beyond just protecting what's there, but also to what extent we actually can leave an environment that is actually improved compared to the one we found before we started the construction of the project. And we want to commit to the sustainable use of resources. We have great progress and great examples, especially, for example, in the area of onshore wind, in the way we actually, and the type of concrete we're using when we're building our projects, and what type of concrete, what type of mix, and how do we make sure that this is done in the most sustainable way possible. So 5 focus areas for sustainable initiatives in the area of wind for Vattenfall. First of all is CO2 emission reduction. There it's about understanding where are the so-called hotspots, where is the CO2 actually emitted throughout the supply chain from scratch. Of course, it's a lot about steel production. It's also about the fuel that we're using during the logistics. We're looking at actually starting to develop hydrogen-based CTVs and vessels, and looking at other forms of fuel can help us to provide a more sustainable way of maintaining our wind farms. Sustainable procurement. How do we actually encourage work with our supply chain to make sure that they are looking forward to developing more sustainable offers? So, to what extent we set requirements, to what extent we incentivize our suppliers, to what extent we do kind of collaboration early on with our suppliers to go there. Sustainable use of resources, local community engagement. So we're trying to spend quite a bit of time. So we did an event 3 weeks ago in the UK to have a similar talk and really connect to the local supply chain, from the very small local printing companies all the way to the turbine suppliers, and really trying to build a network of companies that can work together to develop a sustainable supply chain. And finally, the biodiversity protection, which, as I said, is about not only looking after the environment we're building our projects in, but also even improving the environment after we leave it. So it's interesting that, for example, if you look at some of our solar farms, the bees actually find an extremely good ecosystem around the solar farms, and it's actually helping to produce a more friendly ecosystem than what was there before. So just to talk in a bit more concrete terms, what does it mean for us in procurement and for potential suppliers? We want to look, for example, on the CO2 emission on transportation. What sort of form of transportation? Do we really need to take the equipment all the way from the other side of the world if we can procure it locally? And also, are there any sort of transportation patterns or methods we can use to reduce the amount of trucks that we need to build a substation or local works? We want to measure sustainable procurement in terms of how do we actually, as I said, incentivizing, and also making sure that those achievements are measurable and quantifiable. It's important that, of course, we will not lose the focus on the cost and making sure that renewable keeps becoming more and more a cheaper way of producing electricity. It's important. But at the same time, we need to find ways to see what is the cost of being more sustainable and how do we make that work. Sustainable use of substance, sustainable use of resources. We really want to focus on the use of hazardous substances. Of course, there's a lot of those being used. Of course, there's a lot of rare earth material that is being used in some of our equipment that we probably cannot do without, but at least we can understand a bit better what are the impact of those type of services, and also when the batteries, of course, are using materials that are not easily recyclable. But it's about us working with the suppliers and understand how they take care of these important criteria as well. Local community engagement, I said a few words about that. there's a work for pretty much anybody, locally to help us go down to building fencing, building roads. We might not have a contract to very local suppliers to help us to build this, but certainly they will play a part to the overall jigsaw to actually build a wind farm. And finally, biodiversity protection. Some of the things we're looking at, for example, use of trenchless technology, where we can avoid to unsettle the soil in the offshore wind farms by avoiding to have to do trenches or onshore as well, and see whether there are other form of technology that avoids us disrupting the ecosystem more than we should. So, yeah. So what does it mean for the suppliers who are looking forward to work with? We're looking really for the suppliers to form networks among themselves, meet each other in this kind of conference and others, to really figure out how to build a service together that can be attractive to Vattenfall. We're looking for innovation, because of course the way to reduce the cost of energy is not only just to drive the cost down, but to find more clever ways to actually build those projects, bring technology. We saw a lot of technology improvement only on turbines, on vessels, on foundation cables, everywhere. And finally, we're very, very curious for anybody who has great ideas about how to help to reduce the CO2 footprints. If there are any good ideas or initiatives that you've been working on, or ideas that you have that you would like to suggest, we're always open to those ideas and see how we can make them happen in our projects. Yeah, and I think that's it. Thank you for your interest. Merci.